And first, to everyone who's here so far, thank you all so much for coming in and taking an hour out of your week to join us. Basically, I want to do some introductions. Susan O'Handley is me. I joined the council board about 2 years ago. I think I'm heading into my third year on the council board. And I've kind of took this project under my wing to help admin and get it off the ground for chapters and to have a support role for our chapter leaders in New York and Connecticut, along with Dennis Riordan at Mononkatuk out of Connecticut Audubon. So I, again, appreciate everybody's time. I am a board member on the Delaware Otsego Audubon Society board, and I've been working with them since 2010, so almost 15 years now, in various roles. I'm currently education chair and publicity chair for the organization, and that's me. Dennis, would you introduce yourself? And then what I want to do is have the other council board members introduce themselves, and then we'll go through our presenters and then all of our attendees. And if we could just state your name, what chapter you're attending on behalf of, and where that chapter is located, so that we have an idea geographically of where we all are. Delaware Otsego Audubon is in the Cooperstown, Oneonta, New York area. And let me turn it over to Dennis because he's been helping me kind of put this together as well. So Dennis, go ahead.
Hi, Dennis Reardon, Mononkatuk Audubon in the New Haven area. I've been on the council board since the two state offices combined.
Great. For council board members, Joy Sirigliano as council chair. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Joyce Rigliano. I am the chair of the Council of Audubon of New York State and Connecticut. Rotating off very shortly, but I served for 4 years there. Prior to that, I was 5 years as a secretary, and yeah, I've been on the board probably about 7 or 8 years now. And my chapter is Four Harbors Audubon Society. So we are from Sunken Meadow State Park all the way out to Shoreham, and then down to the expressway roughly.
Thank you, Joy. Is June here? Okay, so then let's go to Allison, who is secretary.
Hello, I'm Allison Kosek. I'm vice president on Onondaga Audubon, and I'm also the secretary for the council. And Onondaga Audubon covers central and part of northern New York.
Thank you. And is Martin here? Okay. Any other council board members that are currently on the call? Do you want to please go next? Okay. Why don't we move to presenters? Connie, would you like to go first? And then
Sure.
Lee and Dustin.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I apologize for my dog barking. I'm Connie Sanchez. I'm our Burke-Friendly Buildings Manager for National Audubon. I've been with Audubon quite some time, for over 20 years in different roles. But in the last several years, 5 years or so, I've been focusing on our collisions work. So work to reduce collisions, working with chapters, working with our staff and our broader network across the country. And helping to shape our lights out programs as well as our efforts to reduce low rise collisions and glass collisions. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Lee, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm Lee Altadonna. I'm president of the Pennsylvania Audubon Council. I'm president emeritus of the Liberty Bird Alliance. That is the chapter that is all of Philadelphia and about half of Montgomery County and southeastern Pennsylvania. And I also help coordinate Bird Safe Philly.
Great. Dustin?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And nice to see you all tonight. I'm Dustin Partridge. I'm the Director of Conservation and Science at New York City Bird Alliance. And we are a staffed chapter. We have a team of scientists that focus on conservation in New York City for birds and for all New Yorkers. And you'll hear a little bit more about that in a bit.
Thank you. Laura McCarthy, I think we all know, but would you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Laura McCarthy. I'm the Network Engagement Manager for New York and Connecticut. I work with many of our chapters. Most of you know me from my emails, and I've had the pleasure of working with many of you for a very long time. So it's nice to see you all. And I just want to congratulate you all for getting together and coordinating with Susan and the other chapters on such a cool thing. So just glad to be here to help support in the background. Thanks.
Thank you. Hannah Partridge, would you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a presenter, but hello everyone. I am Hannah Partridge. I'm from National Audubon. And Susan and I have talked and I'll be helping with Mobilize. I'm just kind of here to sit in and learn more about this whole program before it gets going.
Thank you. Let's go through attendees, name, chapter, and geographically, where are you located? We'll go through, let's start with Teresa. Oh, sorry, Teresa, are you able to unmute?
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
muted. Yeah, I'm Teresa Murphy. I'm president of the Capital Region, the Capital Region Audubon Society, and we actually cover quite a few counties. We don't have an office anywhere, and I'm here with some of my co-members to, get more information about this.
Great. Dory Joyner.
Hi, I'm Dory Joyner. I'm president of Onondaga Audubon. We're located in central New York.
Thank you. I have Ginny and Steve.
I'm Ginny Hanley. I am on the Education and Advocacy Committee at the Buffalo Audubon Society, and we are just in the process of beginning a campaign to reduce window collisions and the lighting, etc. So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you. John Lowe's.
Hi, everyone. John Lowe's Programs Chair for Southern Adirondack Audubon Society. We cover the Southern Adirondack mountains and foothills from Saratoga Springs north to about Blue Mountain Lake and then east to the Vermont border.
Thank you, John. Peggy Maslow.
I'm with North Shore Audubon Society. That's in Nassau County. There's two Audubon societies, South Shore and North Shore, and I'm in the north.
Thank you. Okay, for the person who's listed as naturalist. You have to unmute.
Yes. Yeah, I'm Tate Johansson, naturalist for Bedford Audubon Society, and we're in Northeast Westchester, Eastern Putnam County.
Awesome. Welcome. Deborah Moyer.
Yes, I'm with the Capital District Audubon Society, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, New York area.
Thank you. Meredith Barges.
Hello, I'm the chair of Lights Out Central New York and the former co-chair of Lights Out Connecticut. And I work, Lights Out Central New York is a nonprofit project of Onondaga Audubon Society. So I'm based in Syracuse.
Thank you. Christine Toth.
Hi, everyone. I'm the conservation chair of Rockland Audubon Society, suburb of New York City.
Susan Fisher.
Hi, I'm the marketing chair at Bedford Audubon, former president. And we also have Susan Sloan here. She's our office administrator. And I go with Tate also.
Okay.
And there's Susan Sloan.
Thank you.
So you're all from we're all from Bedford Audubon.
Who is birding for pleasure?
It's Anita Bishop. I apologize. I try to change it back to my name and I can't get
It's a setting in Zoom and a permissions that I forgot to add, so that's my fault. I'm sorry. Christine Brown.
I'm from Matabesic, I'm a member of the board of Matabesic Audubon in Connecticut.
Perfect. Thank you. Christine.
Hi, yeah, I'm Christine Brown, Vice President of Chemung Valley Audubon Society. We are in, we cover several counties between the Finger Lakes and the border of PA. Elmira Corning is our biggest city, but mostly we're rural.
Thank you. June Summers, who is our council vice chair. You have to unmute. Nope, not yet. Keep working on that, and I'll go to Cheryl C. Can't unmute. Okay. Cheryl, can you type in the chat for where your chapter is? What chapter you're from and where you are? And then we'll pop over to Peggy in the meantime.
Hi, I'm Peggy Lauber. I'm president of North Fork Audubon Society, North Fork of Long Island.
Thank you, Peggy. Susan Sloan.
Hi, Susan Sloan, Bedford Audubon. I'm the office administrator here and very interested to hear what everyone has to say.
Thank you. Matthew.
Hi, my name is Matthew McKenna. I'm the president of the Audubon Society of Stony Brook University. That's a student organization, and we're based in Stony Brook on Long Island, Stony Brook University.
That's awesome. We're glad you're here. Loretta Jean. Do we get, is that? Okay, Becky Gretton.
Hi. Hi. I am a co-conspirator, a co-president with Susan on the Delaware Otsego Audubon Society, and I'm also the program chair, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anya Young Vaughn.
Hi everyone, my name's Anya. I'm also from Bedford Audubon. I'm the development officer over there. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. Allison Guinness.
Hi, I'm the president of Matabesic Audubon, and we're located in the center of Connecticut.
Awesome. Brian Weiner.
Hi, I'm Brian Weiner, Conservation Co-Chair of South Shore Audubon Society. We're located on the South Shore of Nassau County on Long Island.
And
unmute now.
Oh, you're unmuted? Go ahead then.
Loretta Jean.
Hi.
Where are you? What chapter and location?
Okay, it's Quinnipiac Valley Audubon Society, and we are also in the center of Connecticut.
Beautiful. We're glad to have you here. Leslie Brill.
Also, okay.
Hi, I'm president of the Bronx River Sound Shore Audubon Society, and we cover 11 towns in lower Westchester County, north of New York City, ranging from the Scars to Mount Vernon and New Rochelle. Nice to see you all.
Thank you. Did I miss anybody? If I missed you, go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself.
Awesome.
I think we've got everybody. So basically, I want to start with just a little bit of information about how this project came out of the last council meeting, our retreat that we had held in Hamilton, New York in the fall.
I'll take it off.
Okay. There we go. So basically, we had tried to strategize as a group of chapters on ways that we could do something collaboratively and still forward flight plan initiatives, the National Audubon Strategic Plan. And we kind of threw around some ideas and landed on basically working and focusing this year on bird and window collision prevention and lights out programs. So we basically, we knew that a lot of chapters were going to be applying for the smaller collaborative grants. And we figured that that was independent. We could each do kind of what was in our own mind for action that we would take during 2025. But we also said, okay, well, here's a template project that if you don't have a plan for that grant, that we can create one and maybe do something similar all over Connecticut, New York, as we decide. We also applied for and received the Audubon in Action grant, which is the larger grant amount, so that we could supply materials for everybody to help support your efforts in that. And the materials are going to be printed soon. I was hoping that we'd actually have them in hand by this meeting, but there was a glitch with the payment process and it hasn't hit our account yet. So once that money hits our account, I can move forward and do some printing. So every chapter in New York and Connecticut will receive the brochure. I'm going to share my screen here just so that we can all see. And it comes out a little on the smaller side, but hopefully you can kind of get an idea. It's a 4-fold brochure from National Audubon that basically, overviews bird window collisions and ways to make your home bird safe and bird friendly. And basically every chapter in New York and Connecticut will get brochures that they can use at exhibits and handouts and tabling event and kind of disseminate as you need to in 2025. We're also doing bird-friendly yard signs. So these are a little bit more limited. Some chapters have already ordered them in advance. We may have some money to add to that, but we'll basically need to kind of assess that once we know. So this is kind of our last effort that if you want to order lawn signs, you can go to a form and fill that out and say how many you need. So basically lawn signs for bird friendly, and then basically stickers. So we'll have stickers for if you're at a table. They're 2-inch stickers, so this is, very enlarged. And basically we'll have plenty of those to share. We'll bring extras to the council meeting in Glens Falls in the spring. And we're also doing table banner. So we have a 6-foot table banner designed that will go to, I think we have 20 on the list right now for chapters to receive these. So if it's something that you want to receive, you can basically let me know so that I can make sure I can get you one when we go to print very, very soon. So
let me jump in for a second, Susan.
Yep, go ahead, Dennis.
The QR codes go to the Audubon Bird-Friendly Buildings webpage.
Yes. So I'm gonna actually stop share there. After this program this evening, I will send a follow-up email. There's a follow-up email that goes out through Mobilize that gives you a link, and it will go to like all the links that we're talking about tonight, so that you can go there if you need to order materials or supplies and you're not quite, if you hadn't done that before, and you want to do that, you can just click that link and go through that list and go ahead and add to the order. There also, in each chapter, will get a manual, which we're putting together based on the manual that had previously been provided through, I think, the Pennsylvania Audubon and the Bird Working Group Alliance. So that's like 150 pages approximately, I'm going to say, total, which includes the printed copy of the PowerPoint presentation, which has now been updated for 2025. That will be a printed copy in the manual, but there'll also be a link to the Google slideshow version of that, so that you can have that to present as you need and modify for your chapter's needs. What else? Let me find my notes here. Resource manual. Yep, go right ahead.
I'll ask a question. So I'm interested in this PowerPoint presentation, so I can get, how do I get it?
Everybody will get that. Yep.
How?
I basically will be sending it out to people. So
Okay.
I'll have the link to the online version. You can download it to a USB thumb drive if you need to from there. One of the things that I do need is, as we're doing our programming, we do need to ask that there be some reporting involved with that. I'm going to see if I can find my share screen again. Share screen. Share. Oh, no, that was the wrong one. They keep changing Zoom. Share. That's the one. Okay. So this is my agenda copy, but I've got a whole bunch of links on here. Chapter data reporting form. So because we've gotten the Audubon in Action grant, we're trying to track what everybody's doing and have numbers generated from that. So we have a simple form. It's not terribly long, where you can tell us kind of what you did and how many people you reached. So it's basically so that we can compile all this for the report at the end of the program. How many windows do you think were protected? If you know how many households you served, if you've implemented any EDIB strategies, if you engage students in your project, or any additional notes. So Dennis, you want to add something here?
Yeah, this is also a handy, will be handy at the end of 2025 when you're doing your in report to Audubon.
Yep. So most of our chapter leaders, we've gone through this website as a resource. I do want to also ask that when you go through, when you get to this link, and again, I'm going to add where to go for some of this information, that you double check and see if this is the correct mailing address for your chapter. And just let me know if there's any corrections, so that when I ship things out, that it's going to go to the right place. If you want materials shipped to you at home, you just need to email me and let me know that, and I'll track that so that I get them out to the correct places.
I think you can't mail material to a post office box. At least you can't in Port Washington, where we
Okay.
are. You have to
Okay.
mail it to a person.
Okay, so basically, I will need that information from everybody, if it needs to be updated from what's online, because this is the information that I have. I think, let me go back to my agenda, chapter reporting form, and then I think that's all I have. I would like to transition over to our speaker, and for this evening, our first presenter is going to be Lee Altadonna. And
Can I ask one more question?
sure.
So is there money to give people who are going to buy the window treatments, in other words, feather friendly stuff, they have to pay for this themselves. We don't have any.
Yeah, our
give
chapter
anybody.
applied for a grant that's going to make the Acopian version with the paracord. So our grant covers that, but that's not included in the materials and support program.
So we don't have any money for materials to give people. They have to spend it themselves, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
that was sort of what we were suggesting people use the collaborative grants for.
Yep.
And Mononkatuk did similar thing to Delaware at
Yep.
Seago. We're getting materials for a few windows for a few select families.
So what are you saying? I didn't understand.
the collaborative grants that our chapters applied for is covering some of that expense to actually purchase
which chapter is that?
Yeah, Mononkatuk, Delaware, Otsego, Audubon. There may be a couple of others that are here in the room. Okay, over to you, Lee.
Great. Yeah, I just have a few slides that are prompts. Each one of these slides is just essentially the cover slide from a much longer presentation. And I was delighted to hear that you're actually running off the notebooks that some of you may recall. Just as a little bit of background, I was the former National Audubon Board member who represented the Atlantic Flyway North. And Dennis, I don't know how long ago this was, or Laura, but I remember doing a training in Connecticut.
2019.
2019, so 6 years ago, or thereabouts, and had the notebooks, handed them out. Quite a few chapters were there. A lot of new faces on the on the call this evening, which is nice to see. But we did this as a group. This was a Audubon in Action grant that several of us combined on the work, and we had essentially the key people were the president of Lehigh Valley Audubon, Peter Sanger, who is also associated with the Acopian Center of Ornithology, Keith Russell, who was with Audubon Pennsylvania at that point. Audubon Pennsylvania was not combined with Maryland, so there wasn't an Audubon Mid-Atlantic at that point. But Keith helped us, and then I was president of the Wingcoat Audubon Society, which is now the Liberty Bird Alliance. But we put together quite a few things, including the brochure that Connie and Audubon have updated and made much better, and it looks like you're printing that as well. But this was a source of a lot of information because we wanted to address educating people about low-rise buildings where the majority of bird collisions occur. So we wanted to focus the toolkit, the PowerPoint, the materials that are in there to address how people can respond to low-rise buildings. So the form I think you've adapted from this booklet. We also had worked with National Audubon. We presented at the convention that was in Milwaukee. I forget what year that was too, but it was back, at least 5, 6, 7 years ago. But where we presented this, and we did some national webinars with the program as well. But we had great help in trying to do a feedback loop with where people that did some things with their windows were able to put in some data, and that failed miserably. We were not able to get folks to really tell us how many windows, what kind of windows, how many square feet. It was a little bit difficult, but at any rate, you're getting all this information. It's pretty much a self-training site now. So if you go to the toolkit, there are some things that are still outdated. So for example, the Federal Bird Safe Building Act that was in the appendix when we put this together has been reintroduced, I think, at least 2 more times, and has failed every year in the federal government. And of course, I know New York's doing the Falco Act. We have tried some state level stuff here in Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, that's not going anywhere. And we've been told it'll be a snowball's chance in hell if we try to reintroduce it again in the General Assembly in Pennsylvania. So we think a lot of work is going to have to be done at the local level. But if we can go to the next slide. In 2020, there was a major bird kill in Philadelphia. It led to Bird Safe Philly being created. It's not an incorporated body. It is a coalition of the organizations you see at the bottom of this slide. We organized our partners around several different committees. We had a Lights Out team that still exists, and a committee that meets occasionally each time before spring and fall migration, with some great support from other partners like BOMA and the building industry, BIA, building, whatever that is, Building Industry Administration. Connie Sanchez has been material to help pull that together, because she's been the Audubon rep to Bird Safe Philly when it started out, and still helping. And all these groups, the bird groups from Philadelphia, collaborated together. We have an advocacy team, we have a leadership team, we have a monitoring team, and we also, I think there's another team there that I'll circle back to. But this is the cover slide for another major slideshow. So can go and do a deep dive on what we do with Bird Safe Philly, and you know, some of the things we're trying to accomplish. This is focused on the city of Philadelphia and the ring or the collar counties in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. I'm doing a presentation next weekend in southern New Jersey where they wanted a program on Bird Safe Philly. So I'll be able to bring them up to speed. New Jersey Audubon is not part of the coalition, but you know, there'll likely be some folks in the program that we're doing down in Cumberland County on Saturday. But again, each of these slides I show you are really kind of a launching pad for something much longer if you'd ever want that. Next slide. There we go. What we have done mostly as a chapter, but then engage the other partners with Bird Safe Philly. This is just one slide. There's over 500,000 buildings in Philadelphia. We do monitor many of them, several of them, nowhere near 500,000, did I say? Did I say million? 500,000. But the thing we decided to do first as a chapter was to focus on the environmental centers. So we were kind of shocked that the nature centers did not address their windows. So we pulled together an effort to address each and every nature or environmental education center that is in the Philadelphia area and vicinity within our Bird Safe Philly specter. The Liberty Bird Alliance is the lead on this. The young woman in the slide in the upper right of the slide is Sandy Egger, and she is the active chair of promoting all of this. But I'm not going to read the slide to you, but I know someone was asking about funding. We were able to get some things started with our first project, which was not a nature center, Sister Cities Cafe, which is essentially a glass cube cafe that is in the museum district around Logan Circle, near the Franklin Institute, the Academy of Natural Sciences, and it's used and visited by a lot of people. And there we were able to, the chapter was able to underwrite the funding for about a $10,000 project. And then we had great support from Valley Forge Audubon and the Delaware Valley Ornithological Club, who chipped in to help with it too. This was one where the installation in Sister Cities, and I don't have that slide here, that's a whole story in and of itself, had to be done by professionals. Everything we've done at the environmental centers, we have done 5 of them at this point, has been done by a corps of volunteers. So we have this group of volunteers that have learned how to install Feather Friendly as our product of choice. That's what we have bought. And again, we've had a great deal of assistance with first the Liberty Bird Alliance under covering and underwriting the project, and then recruiting funding from our partners. Our funding has come over several years from a birdathon. We make our birdathon dedicated to our Bird Safe Philly activities. We cover some other things for Bird Safe Philly as well, but it's really important that we've had the volunteers to help do this. We have several other centers on the horizon for the spring migration. The Hines National Wildlife Refuge. We've actually even gotten some contact and meetings with Independence National Historical Park, which we are told they are now going to replace the glass in portions of the Liberty Bell Pavilion, 1 million visitors a year. And they are going to fund, not so much feather friendly, they're going to actually get replacement glass on the windows that, if you've ever been to see the Liberty Bell, the main windows face towards Independence Hall. And they're the windows they're going to replace. We're also looking at potentially feather friendly on some sections of the Constitution, the Constitution Museum of the, what is it called? The Museum of the Constitution, and hoping we can do that. But we've really been pleased with this effort with our volunteers, and we've had great support from Feather Friendly too. Next slide. There we go. Again, through Stephanie's initiative, we have started a Bird Safe Schools initiative in conjunction with Bird Safe Philly. Again, can do a deep dive into this, but Stephanie's actually daughter is a student at the school, and one of our other board members has a child who's a student at the school. And the kids have done some fundraisers themselves. We've provided them some support. And since we have done some other centers, we are getting contact from schools that visit those centers that have interest in doing this work with at least a portion of their windows. So they've been working on their school cafeteria. And again, I have a number of slides that are dedicated to both the center work, too long to do for this evening, and can talk to more about the Bird Safe School Initiative as well. But we just think this is a way to educate and to build out from centers where a lot of programs take place and make people aware of what the issue is and how to address and learn about feather friendly or in the dots or the other methods that can be used. And it's really worthwhile. It's a quick aside. Last week, I did a presentation to a school in the Poway School District that's just north of San Diego, California. The connection is my daughter's a teacher there of 18 to 21-year-olds who are students with needs that will never get a high school diploma, but they want to address the building and the glass that they are in. And so I've reached out to Palomar Audubon chapter that's there, and hopefully we'll get something rolling there as well. And that's just more of a personal side, but this is something that is of great interest to do and can talk at length about this. Next slide. Oh, here's more of the kids at the school. So you can see some of the stuff. These are the third graders that initiated the project. Sixth grade, that was last year. Sixth graders are doing it this year. But it's just great to see them working. The gentleman with the NASA hoodie is one of our board members. He's our field trip chair. And Stephanie is, on the, kneeling down with some kids working on some of the application too. Next slide.
I think that's all I have, Lee.
Oh, that's it. All right. I think that's pretty much it then. The each of those three slides are kind of programs in and of themselves. And we can go from there. I've really tickled by the pamphlet that you're producing for everybody because Connie approached Peter and Keith and I if that could be picked up and made better, improved. And it's certainly an improvement over what we had made. And it has a lot of great information, and it's a great handout.
Thank you. And I love your resources. I've been on your website many, many times.
Which one?
And I'll make sure to
Bird Safe
add that.
Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yep. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Connie helped us set that up too, along with a couple of other people. We have a social media team.
All right.
We're all volunteer, by the way. This is all volunteer. We have no staff.
That's beautiful. Let's go to Connie and then we'll switch to Dustin.
Are we good? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just maximize that. All right, we good?
Yep, that looks good.
All right. Well, thank you again for having me. What I'll do is just provide kind of the broader context for this work. I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but I just wanted to give you a perspective from a national level and then talk about some of the resources that we have available to you all as you work on these projects. So as you all know, with our new flight plan, our work on collisions falls primarily in our community building work. As we think about how much engagement there is on this front for our work on collisions, building partnerships, influencing coalitions, activating networks, focus on advocacy, all of these components fall in our community building work, our work to engage these communities in doing this work and focusing on healthy habitats, climate action, as well as policy. So it all works hand in hand together. And what is interesting is in some of the latest work that we've been doing with our numbers on our back end, we've been seeing that this work on collisions is really bringing in so many advocates and really expanding our reach, for our bird community and our conservation community. And this work on through our systems, we could see that the promotion of these actions has brought in 40 to 50% of new advocates to our broader network in just the recent years. So it's something really an interesting point that we're looking at. And these actions are tangible and accessible, and people can do these things year round and protect birds year round. So that's what's been really interesting to see. As you all know, we've got more than 1 billion birds are killed in the US alone. And, this is a problem at all times of the year, so night and day. And so what's interesting is that the majority of them are happening at low-rise collisions, and we alluded to that as well. And that's why this focus on low-rise collisions is so important. So it's not just these high rises that, the high profile huge mass collision events, but also on an everyday basis, it's so important. So this is what our network looks like. This map here is a bit outdated. I haven't updated the numbers in the last year or so, but it just gives you a sense of how much interest and engagement there is on this front from our chapters, some of our centers, our partners, and our Lights Out efforts across the country. So we've got state and regional Lights Out efforts, as well as city programs. And then the black dots there represent chapters that have reported bird-friendly buildings activities in recent years. This doesn't take into account the last year or so. That's not updated, but it just gives you a sense of how much activity we've got on this front. And then we've got the interactive Lights Out map online on our website that you can click through and see the different programs and click to each of those programs. So in terms of the variety of activities related to reducing collisions, we've got everything from building awareness. So, kind of retrofits on buildings that service, high profile buildings to as demonstration sites, kind of building awareness and promoting individual actions in your own homes, in your own schools, in your places of business. The focus on proclamations, resolutions, and ordinances, municipal engagement, focus on collision monitoring, and then a home lights out assessment or home lighting assessment. So a lot of these resources some of those are from Dark Sky International. So we've partnered with Dark Sky International on the lighting resources. And then what is really valuable are those partnerships that are built, from national level partnerships to regional partnerships to local partnerships. So many different types of activities and strategies associated with this work to reduce collisions focused on both light as well as glass. In terms of our resources, we have them all in a shared folder in Box. And if you see those weekly chapter updates, there's a link to a subset of those. I also have a direct link to a broader set of resources that I've shared with many of you before. I'm happy to share that again, but that includes what Susan alluded to before and what Lee has talked about. So a low-rise collision toolkit, the brochure, the latest brochure that's been updated. We've got a fact sheet, a one-pager that has information on lights out as well as glass collisions front and back. We have a lights out toolkit. We've got photos available in our digital asset resource library that is accessible to all of you or available to all of you. And then we've got a new tool called Mobilize that I know many of you are using already. I know Susan used it for tonight, and I know Hannah will be talking to you all more about that in terms of tracking and scheduling and engaging more. So, and then another big part of what we've done nationally to help in this effort is really to promote the work going on across the country and to facilitate connections, really elevating those local stories. So, as Lee mentioned, the Sister Cities Cafe success, we recently, in the last year or so, published a story on Audubon.org about that, to really elevate that and to get people to understand what's going on and to share these successes. And periodically we will do roundup stories to showcase all that's happening across the network, whether that's focused on policy, whether that's focused on retrofits, working with schools. So just to showcase the breadth of this work and the types of activities that are related to this and what you all can do. So. And with that, I think that's it.
Thank you so much. If I could ask both Lee and Connie to just email me those links, I'll make sure that we have them bundled up with our other resources. Tomorrow morning, I'll do the updates and get those on there. One of the things that we've really been focusing on and that we're trying to continue to push is for chapters to be sharing their work with other chapters. And New York City Bird Alliance has really a pretty lengthy history now working in this topic, and we felt that they could contribute in regards to kind of tips and things that they hear and ways to address some of the public engagement pieces. As well as the D-Bird app, where people can actually report birds that they find that are dead. So I'm going to turn it over to Dustin, and we really appreciate your insights, having been working in this and strengthening that chapter-to-chapter sharing. And I know Onondaga Audubon, I think we're going to bring you in at the Spring Council meeting. We've been kind of talking about the programming and looking at the lights out portion of that you guys have been working on. So with such effort this past couple of years. So Dustin, over to you.
Well, thank you for that introduction, and it's great to be here. I'll share. I'm sure some of you on this call, I know some of you have seen how we talked about our work before, and kind of our experience with collisions, but I wanted to give a kind of a quick overview about who we are and what we do. And then Susan asked to kind of share what our experience is with engaging people. And I thought about kind of what is the first conversation we have? And we partner with buildings across the city and people across the city. And oftentimes there are a few questions that emerge right away that you're probably all going to have too when you're setting up at festivals, or you're speaking to building owners and trying to get change. So I highlighted some of those that I'll talk through. And I just want to point out this photo from downtown New York on top of a building actually where there's a bird safe windbreak with which has been transferred to now, instead of being lethal, it is a bird perch, and birds will sit on there in the habitat and use it. It's a great way to kind of look at that. So we are a staff chapter. I'm the Director of Conservation and Science. I have the pleasure of working with and overseeing a bunch of our scientists that we have on staff. That's the conservation work that we do. And all the work that we do in New York City is focused on making New York better for both birds and for people. We do this through the science work, which we then use to share that information with our many people that join us. We have about 15,000 people come out for our events every year and outings across the city. If you haven't gone birding in the city, I highly recommend it. It's really a lot of fun. And then we connect that all with advocacy, and we're very vocal pushing for bird safe change. And it's how we ended up with some of the most comprehensive bird safe legislation in the US, right in New York. But a lot of this around collisions, and a large portion of the work that we do for the science side of things, is focused on collisions. And you've probably heard of Project Safe Flight at some point. But Project Safe Flight is something that my predecessors started a long time ago, in 1997. One of the early board members of New York City Bird Alliance, then New York City Audubon, was walking around and found a bunch of dead birds in Lower Manhattan. Created this kind of small group of volunteers to go and walk around and monitor these 10 buildings. That program has grown, and this past year we monitored over 80 buildings, and we had about 180 volunteers going out to do this work, waking up every morning in spring and fall migration to look for collision victims. And we use that to kind of push for change. And we have a lot of these conversations, getting buildings like what you see here to do those retrofits, which is oftentimes kind of a hard sell in a city like New York, where people first don't even think that birds exist, unless you're a birder. And you have to convince them that this is something that they really should do. So the next kind of common misconceptions are things that often come up in early conversations. So one of the first things that comes up is that, sure, collisions happen, but they don't happen here. They don't happen with my building, right? This is something that we hear all the time. And, you know, we're all of us in this call are birders, and it's probably very hard for you to spot the birds in these photos. These are collision victim photos. It's really hard to find a carcass or an injured bird. There they are. So it's really challenging. It's a very different search image from when you're looking for a bird in the trees and you're trying to go birding. An injured bird looks different. It looks like a mass of leaves on the ground or something that blends right in if you're in vegetation. So it's really hard to actually spot birds. So when people say bird collisions don't happen here, it's because they don't see them. They're happening everywhere. And people just simply aren't seeing the results because they're not looking for it. Once they start looking, they're going to see it. And then on top of that, not only is it hard to spot birds, but carcasses don't last long. We know that on the streets of New York, for example, for a variety of reasons, we find about 34% of the birds that end up on the city street because of people kicking them, getting cleaned up off the streets, predators and scavengers scooping that up. Gulls will come by and, you know, sit near busy windows and grab collision victims. So carcasses don't last long. And then also, the birds that die beneath glass or get stunned beneath glass are only a small percentage of the birds that hit. Only a tiny percentage of the birds that hit glass will actually fall down right there. Most of them hit and fly off and go perch in a tree somewhere. So there's very little evidence of collisions. And that's something that you're gonna have to convey to people when you start speaking with them, that just because they don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. This has come up several times today, but still something that people think about is that collisions are a city problem. These collisions are happening everywhere. They're happening at low-rise and residences. Cities definitely concentrate collisions. Yes, they do concentrate collisions, so they're a bit more visible. Bright lights draw birds in. There's a lack of green space and more people to find those dead birds. So they do concentrate it, but these collisions are happening everywhere. And along this, people often, when they think of collisions, they think of it, as was pointed out, as a high-rise problem that is happening up high. Most collisions happen where there's a reflection of vegetation, where birds are trying to kind of move around. And this is something that comes up in almost every conversation we have when it's trying to get a retrofit in place is, well, you know, how are we going to fix the glass on the very top of our building? It's not actually where the problem is. This is one that I know I used to kind of have hopes for too. And you may have all, if you've seen a bird hit a window and fly off after it sat there for a moment, this is a common misconception too. So this is something you'll hear again and again, is that birds hit my window, but they usually just sit on the ground for a second and they fly off and they're fine. Unfortunately, That's not true. We just published a paper in August this year looking at the outcomes of birds that hit glass. So we looked at outcomes of birds that were stunned for long enough to get picked up and brought to rehab. And even in the best case of rehab, you know, the best case scenario for a bird where it's getting treated and doesn't have to worry about food or predation, 60% of those birds die. And it usually takes at least a day to die. So when a bird collides, that bird that flies off, and if it's stunned temporarily, it goes parachuting in a tree, it most likely dies later on. And that's another kind of unfortunate fact of this, that people will think that the birds are okay and that collisions aren't that big of an issue. And that's also how we know that over 1 billion birds die, because of previous underestimates of how many birds actually die from this. Another one you're going to hear is that, well, I've already made my windows bird safe, right? There are products like this. This is a screenshot off of Amazon, pulled off this morning, that was, you know, advertising for bird safe design. This decals in windows you'll often see people put up, and unfortunately they don't work. They stop collisions right where the decal is because they let birds know that there's something there, but all the other space around those decals, it's still lethal. If you think about these passerine birds that are where they're navigating the habitats, they're really good at flying through tree canopy and shrubs and knowing exactly where their wings are. And birds are going to try to fly through basically anything that's not spaced out 2 inches by 2 inches. So this example here, this dot matrix on a glass building overlooking the water, that's bird friendly. That 2 inches by 2 inch spacing is essential. And on the outside of glass, so the surface that generates reflections. And finally, this is one that has, it's, you know, at least people are aware that it's happening, but something that often comes up is you'll hear kind of arguments now that it's, you know, oh yeah, I know collisions are happening, but it's all because of light. Or I know collisions are happening, and so I can turn my lights off and stop them. Or I don't have to worry about collisions because I've made myself, my buildings in my downtown or my city bird safe. Collisions are very much a light and a glass problem. Light attracts and disorients birds. You see that here. Use the beams of light that go up every year and for the 9/11 memorial. All those little dots in there are birds. That's how attractive this light is. Birds get in there, they get stuck, and they concentrate in downtown areas. They can get disoriented, pulled into windows at night and collide at night. And then you have a situation like this where even as humans, it's hard to tell what in this photo is glass and what's not, because reflections and fly-through conditions like the glass railings right here, where my mic is moving, or where my mouse is moving, birds can't perceive that that's glass. They just crash into it. So this is very much a light and glass problem. Now, I wanted to share one of the tools that we have that's available. This is one of really kind of 3 tools that are out there for tracking collisions. This is one that we designed with some intent to make it fast. It takes less than 2 minutes to upload a bird, and you don't need an email address. You don't need to register for anything. You can just upload your bird. This is dbird.org. So this is a website that's available across the nation for self-reporting of birds. So community science reporting of birds. So you can see what this looks like here. This is a view of kind of New York State as of from birds that were reported in 2024. This is not all bird collisions that have happened. This is bird collisions that happened where somebody found them and also knows enough about dBird to upload that bird. So there's some caveats there, right? It's kind of limited that you're only going to get data for people that know that it's available. But when you find a dead bird, this is what the interface looks like. You can try to ID the species, you upload a photo, you mark the location, the date and time, the injury, and you put it there. And this is for dead or injured birds. As you can see, the yellow dots are injured birds, the orange are dead birds. This is something you've probably seen if you've gone to dbird.org. This is the back end. So as chapters or as organizations, you can create your own project within dBird for free. Just you register on the website. And what that allows you to do is basically create this little map. So this is what our New York City Bird Alliance dBird projects look like. This is the outline of New York City, and that's the spot that we're focused on reducing collisions. So we get basically a report and a data set for anybody that uploads a collision into just New York City within those boundaries that we set. You could set your own boundaries and track your own data. This is the data manager's view of this. So you can set your own boundaries, and then you end up with a report like this. So you can see we have all of our years here, and we have this list of things that have come up. So you see this, if you were to click on this, it would be a photo of this American robin dead, and then you could probably see it right next to a window. And you get all this data. This data can be extracted into Excel, which is very powerful for being able to kind of sort through the data. You can then use that data for creating figures, understanding which are the most common birds, what are the causes of death. And it's just a really helpful tool for tracking and understanding collisions in a region, in your chapters area. So that's kind of a general overview about DBIRD. And if we have time for questions, I'm happy to take whatever questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Dustin. I did not realize that you could set up your own region in DBIRD. That's really very interesting to me, and something I just learned. So that's great. Let's see if there are any questions. Anybody?
I have
You
a
can-
question.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Hi. So, interestingly, and I saw in the statistics, a lot of birds are killed from hitting homes, residences. And we often hear about bird collisions in the cities. And I never really connected that it was more, you know, the lower windows and not high rises, but it makes perfect sense. But with the material that you're going to be sending, is there literature on that pertains specifically to homeowners? Where we live in a lot of our territory, we have a lot of little villages and a lot of homes and a lot of woods, and not a lot of high-rise buildings. So I'm just, as we get the message out, I think a lot of our focus is likely going to be on small businesses, yes, but primarily homeowners. And I'm just wondering, because I think a lot of people think, well, I don't live in a big building, you know?
Yeah.
Or does
Susan,
anybody have experience with it,
I'm
with that?
right there with you. Our chapter is also in a fairly rural region of New York State. And certainly we have more urban areas, but I think it's very applicable for the homeowner. And I do believe that the data supports that implementing window collision prevention and lights out practices in that rural environment can make a meaningful impact on reducing bird deaths. And our specialists can correct me. Pipe in.
It's funny because I was writing a piece for an upcoming newsletter that we have, and you know, I've seen, you know, the reports. I think there was the study, the original study that was a number of years ago, but now we think there's 1 billion birds killed by window strikes every year. But I was Googling a lot. I won't say researching because it was all Google. Trying to get that number for what percentage is residents, and I couldn't find it online.
Well,
I see it now because it was in one of your presentation materials. So I think that's important to communicate to people.
Yeah, Connie's slide has that pretty well
Yeah, I
defined.
took a screenshot of it.
There you go.
But yeah, it's hard to find when you're just out there.
I can
you know.
send the reference too. I'll send a link to it, the Loss et al. Paper that
Awesome.
distinguishes that.
Yeah, kind of that has the toolkit, right? Because that has a lot of the material that it sounds
Yep.
like your project is already disseminating to the chapters.
So
I
I've
think
been,
you'll. I think as you go out and talk with people and talk with you know, give presentations in the community, you'll start to gather a lot of anecdotal stories of people having birds crash into their windows. I feel like it's not something that you necessarily see in the news the way that we see like the mass collision events happen in Chicago or in New York. Those get a lot of attention in the news cycle, but I think almost everybody has a story about seeing a bird collide with a window at their home or at their school. You know, and I think that that's the kind of thing that convinces people that it happens at the home levels because they've experienced it themselves or and that drives their awareness. So I think it's a different kind of a convincing, but I think that's part of the story for homes in the mitigation, the need for mitigation is that people experience it themselves.
Yeah, Meredith, I think that's exactly right. Is that I would suspect that all of us on this call, or most people that are thinking about birds, have heard that familiar dunk sound of a bird hitting a window. And that's an experience that almost everybody has had, even if they think that, well, it's only happened a few times over the years. It's no, you've only heard it a few times over the years because that's the time you're close enough to that window where you're not sleeping or you're not out working or birding. It happens very frequently. And that's especially true if they're feeders. So feeders can be particularly dangerous, pulling birds in close to windows.
I'm interested in a PowerPoint or whatever you want to call it, or for Nassau County, for where I am. I don't know if some of the slides I could use that Dustin has, but so I think Susan, you said you prepared a presentation.
There is a presentation based on the one that Lee had given an overview of in the very beginning. And basically that's like at least 50 plus slides that is available that I will be sending to all chapters so that you'll all get a copy of the updated version of that. Dennis.
It's about a 25-minute presentation. If you read the script, I will tell you that there's a lot of information at the end about ultraviolet and some other upcoming things. I don't always use the entire slideshow, but you can use the portions depending on the audience that you have that makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you. Dennis, I know you had.
Yeah, is there a recording of thunk?
A recording of what?
A bird hitting a window.
Oh, the kathunk?
No, a picture of it, he means.
No, I mean a recording of it.
A video, no?
No.
I wonder if like Daniel Clem.
Of it so that you could, at a presentation, you could play it, to remind people what it sounds like.
Oh.
It's a sickening sound. Maybe
Yes, it
Daniel
is.
Clem.
Just saying someone could probably record like throwing something out a window that's like light enough to make so we don't have to actually have a bird do it.
With a beak?
Yeah. You can get one of the stuffed birds, the little ones that you squeeze and they make a chirpy noise. Just throw one of those to the window, make the same kind of thunk.
Perfect.
I don't know if Dustin has some information, but I've had occasion because of visiting folks in hospitals, seeing that hospitals in San Diego, hospitals in Philadelphia have a lot of etchings on their what we call surface one, the outside surface of their windows that are 2 inches apart or 4 inches apart. And I thought, gee, what an amazingly conscious hospital or building, because they must really care about birds. I have a feeling and need to verify. I don't think it has anything to do with birds. I think it has to do with energy savings and the amount of solar insolation, especially in San Diego. I've not been able to find an ordinance about why so many of the windows have, acid etched or colored bars or stripes on the windows or frosting. But there are quite a number, and it has nothing to do with birds. It has to do with energy savings, and it may be worth getting that in your toolkit as a way to at least to get to office buildings. And then also the perf vinyl. We've been trying to get more pictures of perf vinyl, which have the pictures or images on them that in marketing, a lot of businesses have these large plate glass windows, and the perf vinyl, which is expensive, but it becomes a marketing cost because there's advertisement on it. And I think one of the things that we're going to try to do with Bird Safe Philly is to try to showcase buildings that have done things. So we have on our social media and our Facebook posts, a place where, whether it's a hospital for whatever reason, or whether it's a place of business, whether it's a school, here's what they've done and it's made it bird safe. and it'd be nice to show the positive end of it too.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I agree with Lee, and that's also a really helpful tool to keep in mind that Lee just raises about kind of dispelling another myth. I didn't put in the slides, but one of the often concerns that often comes up is that bird safe design is ugly, or I'm afraid of what it looks like. And Lee points out that we've all seen it and haven't thought about it, right? It's there, it's just part of the design and it's bird safe. So there's often ways to kind of get around that. One of the things that I often like to do when somebody's afraid of that is I point out that we're all staring at the tip of our nose right now and we don't even realize it. Like we all get used to it. It just kind of disappears. But that is the aesthetics are something to consider in these conversations as well, and trying to make people feel more comfortable about it.
Exactly. Thank you.
It
I
looks-
know, oh, go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, it looks like Loretta is off the call now, but the Quinnipiac Valley has a farmhouse on their property, and their project, the collaborative grant project, is to use feather-friendly Acopium bird savers and tempera on the windows to display the different materials that can be used so that people can compare them.
I like that. I know we're over time. I do want to just mention before we break up here that I just had it. Let me see if I have that. February 10th, 7 p.m., we're going to do a specific training on using Mobilize to help promote your chapter events and specifically your window and bird collision events, because that is part of the grant requirements if you received a collaborative grant and through our Audubon in Action grant. So I've been testing the system for some of our programming, and I know that some of you who signed up for this workshop ended up signing up for some of our DOAS programs coming up in the future. So there is some nice benefits with it. I want to share some experiences and some questions that I had as I've been kind of working through using the platform, and some tips that I've learned how to integrate it with Zoom so that there's no glitch, because you're no longer registering people through Zoom, you're registering them through Mobilize. So we'll get into all of that on February 10th, 7 p.m. on Zoom, and I popped the registration link in there if you have not yet seen that. So it's been as kind of on the bottom of the list as a reminder as things coming up. I also want to mention the spring council meeting, where I'm hoping that we can actually highlight some of the work that our chapters are doing. And I hope that we can get a good representation from both New York and Connecticut there at that meeting. I'll bring extra materials and supplies to that from our printing process. Dennis, go ahead.
Oh, finish what you're saying.
So yeah, I'll have extra, like if we have extra brochures, if we have extra stickers or table banners, I'll bring them there for people to take home with them. And that's all I had to say. So go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that Mobilize is really, really good for collecting, for registering people for programs. It's been outstanding for Mononkatuk, and we've had people register for our programs from all over the country, because if you're on Mobilize, you get recommendations for programs similar to the ones that you've already registered for. So yeah, join that webinar with Hannah.
Yep, and I realize I mentioned the spring council meeting and never talked about like the date and the location. So it will be in Glens Falls from April 4th to April 6th. I hope that we will see you there. Matthew, you have your hand raised.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. So what's the what kind of grant would be the one for the Mobilize event again?
Any like work for window collision work,
If I
anything
have-
that you're doing for window collisions.
All right.
And Matthew, if you want, I should have your email address
Yeah.
from your Mobilize sign up. Let me reach out to you tomorrow if you have time. I can give you a call, or we can set up a Zoom meeting, and I can just give you an overview, because as a campus chapter, I want to make sure that you are aware of a couple things. And
right.
we're trying to connect better with campus chapters and also connect them with each other, which I think will be very valuable.
Cool.
So, awesome.
Thank you.
So I'll email and we can arrange that.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. I see a bunch of stuff coming in the chat. I will have a recording of those demystifying retrofits tomorrow, January 29th, 4 to 5 p.m. on Zoom. And that's through Onondaga Audubon Lights Out program. Is that correct?
It's actually organized by the Lights Out Coalition, but if people don't know, Michael Measure and Christine Shepard are legends in this field, and Paul Grollo is the president of Feather Friendly. That's the decals that Bird Safe Philly uses. So these are like all amazing people that will be speaking tomorrow in this webinar.
Thank you so much. I'll make sure to include the information on that as well in our resources for follow-up. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night. Appreciate you staying a little bit late.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Okay.
Thank
night.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.